Hello, everyone. I have chosen to do the role and usage of using labor-based contract grading in a middle school classroom because that is where I spend the majority of my time and my years of teaching at. Even though I do teach at a community college, the first year writing course, I just chose this because I would like to start incorporating it into this classroom first and then into the other higher ed one. So I'm going to begin with first describing what labor-based contract grading contracts are. Basically, it's just making requirements for a project or an activity and having the students also have the accessibility to be included into the decision making of what grades are possible, from A all the way through F, whatever your grading system is. Here is an example right here pertaining to one that shows requirements, like if you want an A, this is what you're going to have to do. If you want a standard B, this is what you have to do. And you can set your own criteria up to meet your classroom needs and go along with the contracts. Now, like I said, it all just depends on what level you're at and how in depth that you want to go. Being a middle school level, I would probably set it pretty simple because of the academic and maturity level of these students. And I'm going to talk about that later on in this presentation. This is another example of a contract. I know it's really, really hard to read, but I want to show you that when you go to do this, if you choose to do the contract, you need to make sure that you have everything laid out for your students. And if you are at a lower level, also the parents, because parent involvement can become crucial, and you may get some heat from parents if you don't have everything laid out and explaining to them what you're going to be doing. And I'm going to be talking about that a little bit about when the biggest issues here in the next slide. But again, I just wanted to show you that this is just an example of a contract that is laid out, and it shows exactly what students need to do. Going into the biggest issues with labor-based grading contracts, one is the lack of student motivation. I believe that if you have been an educator, especially this past spring, with all of the circumstances around COVID and so on, you really started to see the motivation in students, or the lack of. I believe that with labor-based, because it is labor-based, not quality-based, it's quantity-based, the labor amount of what you want students to do, their requirements there, I think that some students may actually shut down. So the lack of student motivation, and you have to make sure that you are you make the students aware of the different criteria, and make sure that they're aware of that. If they don't do this, or if they don't perform this way, not perform, but create this or do this, again, it's labor-based, that their grade may not represent their true ability. Now, they can achieve higher grades, but you have to be able to discuss that with them and make them aware of it. A lot of times, the higher grades will be because of the quality. Okay, so again, basically, you're going to have to be straight up and forward with your students on where the grades are and what they need to do to achieve that grade, or possibly the higher grade. The next issue would be giving students too much control. Sometimes that when we give students control, they want to possibly add silly things, and especially at a middle school level. The comprehension of a middle school student, or the maturity level of that student, may not be where it needs to be. And so that's why, as a middle school teacher, you kind of have to guide them and make sure that you have the last say of it when it comes to what they can add and what they can delete. You're always going to have a mixture of opinions. I know when we first started this class, we were asked to state what we wanted within our contracts and requirements of this course. And I personally felt a little timid because, truthfully honest, I've never been presented with this type of grading method. And so I was very timid and did not want to provide any information or any suggestions because I truly didn't understand it. And so again, that might be an issue, but giving the students too much control where they might get rid of some of the content or the standards or concepts that you truly want them to have. So make sure that you do have the last say in what is presented for a requirement for the project or activity. Another issue may be those desperate for higher than a B. Okay. Again, I previously talked about it up there with the lack of student motivation, but sometimes students are very fixated on getting that A. I find not only students, but also parents. Parents can also be fixated and not understand why their child did not maybe get an A or a B plus or a B and so on. Again, you need to make sure that you have all the requirements presented to the student and they're aware of what they truly need to do to earn that B. There are a couple different types of grading or LB GCs. One is the traditional one where you have a B. Okay, and this is what you have to do to get a B. Another one would be where it is labor-based, so it's not the quality at the end, it's have you done everything that you needed to do, or hybrid-based. Again, you need to make sure that those students are aware of what requirements they need to do to earn that B or higher, and make sure that you're not going to get any backlash from that. Another issue may be converting from traditional to the LBGC. Our grading system in the education field has so many flaws because there's so many issues that can arise, whether it's bias, whether it is you don't think that the student is achieving to their ability. It could be the day that you're grading it. It could be the time of the day that you're grading it. It could be where you're grading it. Again, there's just so many factors that come into when a teacher actually grades a project or an activity. And this is just a few of the issues with traditional grades. When you go to LBGC, it's going to be different. It's a different grading method, and it's going to take some time for everyone to adjust to those. Again, that is why communication is a key role in converting from traditional grading to the contractor grading. Last but not least, for middle school, I think the maturity level of students is crucial. One class may be really, really good with it and another class may not be, just because of maturity level. Can they do the reflections? Can they meet the requirements? Are they able to handle the workload of labor-based? So again, every year is different. Sometimes it's every project. Sometimes it's every day that's different. Especially at this level, you just have to work with it and know what's working with your students at the time. So maturity level is most definitely. I think the higher up, when you get into secondary and post education, you might not have the issues of the maturity level. You may, unfortunately, but it's not going to be as prominent within that academic level. Within the middle school classroom, why would we do this? Well, it will help those who normally would struggle. Again, I think that a lot of individuals do struggle in regular classrooms. And when you incorporate different types of grading methods or point methods within a classroom, it kind of balances those people out who struggle maybe with test taking or maybe with writing or maybe with a different activity. So again, going labor-based I think it would help those individuals who normally struggle. I found this class to be challenging just because of uh, the lack of confidence on my end. However, when doing labor-based, it's up to how much work you put into it. And I'm willing to put into that work ethic, into that workload. So again, those people who might normally struggle, especially in writing, it would help them. It could also give confidence to students using this type of grading method, just because, again, it's not the quality. So many times teachers are discussing the quality when you do the labor-based grading contracts and have those requirements out there, and those students are doing what they're asked, but they may not be at that higher academic level as some of the other students. Those lower end students will have a better chance of earning a better grade. Students do not have to worry about the quality as much as growth. Again, with using LBGC within the classroom, reflection is a big concept to have students do. So again, students don't have to always worry about the quality. They can look at the teacher's feedback. They could provide the feedback with reflection and so on. So there's represents a lot of growth. Students will feel a sense of accomplishment. Again, those lower ends, we always are, as educators, should push the higher end academic levels, but also bring those lower ends up. And if you can show student growth within the writing and make sure that students are comfortable with their writing, and using labor-based grading contracts may be that missing part of keeping students, up to the standards of growth. Okay, so students feel a sense of accomplishment when they finished all of the requirements. They know that it's not going to be graded on the quality, but the quantity of how they completed that work and how much they did. Why are labor-based grading contract grading important? It's because it offers students the opportunity to be experimental and exploratory in their writing. Again, it's not always about the quality now. It's about the quantity and how much they do. Do they do extra graphic organizers or find more research? So it's putting that labor into their projects. Value the time and labor students decide to commit to class. A lot of times teachers forget that it may take a student a little bit longer to complete the activity on the project. And even though that they look at the quality, they forget, like, some students take longer than others. And so having that labor-based contract grading or grading contract will provide a better grade for that student, and teachers can realize how much time students have put into it. In addition, it can also create opportunities for teacher feedback instead of a justification of a grade. Again, so many times students are fixated on those grades and do not handle criticism well. Again, teacher feedback would represent the positives and negatives, or the strengths and weaknesses of possible writing. Encourage students to engage in feedback. Again, getting these students to reflect. Again, in past classes and courses and scholarly readings, it has been stated that reflection is crucial for student learning because they're truly evaluating what they have done or what they think about different ideas. Again, very important. In addition, provide students with clear and concrete understanding of their grade. Again, students will exactly see what they have to do for their grades. It's not, again, the quality, it's the quantity of that project. This is my works cited, and hopefully the information provided has given you a little more background pertaining to labor-based grading contracts and how important they are for at any academic